So this question comes to us from our buddy Tyler. He's a customer of ours, and he says, hey, I changed out all this stuff on my early build 6.0, and I still got a high-pressure oil leak. What could it possibly be? I tell you what, there's so much opportunity here for conjecture, right? So if you don't want to guess, so just go back a little bit. If you've got a high-pressure oil leak and you haven't yet done any diagnosis at all other than, yeah, I've got a high pressure oil leak, I've got a hot nose start, and I'm only building 0.4, 0.5 volts of injection control pressure during cranking, and I got 0.24 key on engine off, so I know my ICP sensor is good, because I watched that crazy guy Ed at FICMRepair.com and his pinned video on how to diagnose this stuff, and I know I'm not developing high pressure oil. All right. So now you could have a little bit of a religious discussion in your mind, right, and say, do I care where the problem is? I don't know, do you? Or do you just want to fix it all? There's no right answer here. I mean, if you're eating ramen noodles, maybe you want to figure out that ramen noodles aren't good every single solitary day, and you want to move out of that world. And so you're saying, hey, what O-ring is the problem? Let me go ahead and save some nickels, and I'll go ahead and I'll do that. Well, okay, so your best way to do that is to do an air test, right? And your best way to do that is through the IPR valve, not through the ICP sensor on the valve cover. If it's a later build truck, in his case, it's an early build truck, so he's going on the back anyway. But you do an air test and you say, where is it leaking? And you just listen. And if wherever you're hearing a leak, ding, 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 we have a winner, and you go ahead and you take care of that singular O-ring or whatever it is that's causing the problem, right? Now, if it is the case that you don't have a leak at all, it's holding air, everything else, then you got a bad pump, right? Just the way it is. So that's kind of figuring out where the problem is and what to do about it. But if you have, like, say you have a late build truck and you're just like, okay, where's my problem? You can get a sense for where the problem is just by taking a look at the resultant PSI numbers. And you say, hey, I'm building 400 PSI, and that's all, or oh, I'm only building 100 PSI. And that gives an indication, but it's still not a test for sure. And so if you wanted to know for sure, your way is to do an air test. Outside of that, you could say, how much are these parts all again? How many things could it be? It's arguably a dummy plug. That's the vast majority of the issues. But could it be a standpipe? Yes. Could it be an injector cup nipple or the corresponding the O-ring? Yes. When you're doing injector cup nipples, if you're not going to replace them, you take your fingernail. Your fingernail feels 2/1000ths, and so you run it along the stem of the injector cup nipple that slides in, and if you feel any ridge there at all, you take some steel wool. Quadruple zero steel wool, and you just rub on that until that nick goes away. If you can feel it with your fingernail, it's no bueno for you, right? But the idea is it's not actually that bad financially just to go ahead and say, hey, new dummy plugs, new standpipes, new injector cup nipples and their corresponding O-rings, and that's the valve cover piece of it, and you take it apart, excuse me, you put it back together again, and life is good, right? And then if that doesn't work, okay, fine. Now you're pulling you're an intake on an early build, or you're not pulling an intake on a late build, just the turbo, and you're going ahead and taking a look at the H-pop, right? Now, is there a possibility that it's an IPR valve? Yes. And so what you do is you verify that puppy is 14 to 15 volts key on engine off, and that it's not going to 85% and staying there. If it is, I'm giving it all I can, Scotty. If you want to spin the IPR valve out and pull the screen off and manually, run a set a bolt on top of your work surface, and then just push down horizontally, where you slide the actual IPR valve over this bolt. You can spray brake clean through there, and you maybe have a piece of paper towel laying on your workbench, and you can just look for, hey, did I catch anything? I mean, you can go ahead and do that. Not a whole lot of IPR valves actually fail. The number of IPR valves that get changed is ridiculous, but how many of them actually failed? Very, very few, in fact. But what I can tell you is that the vast majority of high pressure oils issues, to Tyler's point here, they happen right after somebody worked on it because you nicked an O-ring, you weren't adequately careful. Happens to all of us. Don't feel too terribly bad. I mean, obviously, you're going to be careful. You're going to use assembly lube when you're putting these stuff together, and you're going to use my trick on the oil rail where you put the oil rail in with both hands together. You feel a very satisfying thunk when the injector cup nipples slide through those O-rings on the tops of the injectors, and it touches. It meets its landing zone, but then you take the bolts and you put them all the way in, but then back them off just a little bit to allow that oil rail to move laterally, allow it to move side to side. Now you install your standpipe, and if you install your standpipe this way, you won't put any lateral load on just one side of the O-ring or the other, which, by the way, is the vast majority of the reasons why all these standpipe failures are occurring. It's just bad install. Now, not helping is bad O-rings, which is why you really want to look at Diesel Site's product for that, and onward and upward. But that's kind of the story. And so now, what do you want to do with that story, right? Well, hopefully you want to install it properly. So keep your oil rail loose, install your standpipe, torque it to spec, and then go ahead and tighten down your oil rail to spec afterwards. So I hope this helps give some ideas. I'm sure there's more, but I'm just spacing out on my half sick slumber here, so have some grace with me if I forgot something. But if I did forget something, put it in the comments, because we're better together, guys. All right? FICMRepair.com. We're all in this together. Thank you. Oh, sidebar. Tyler, if you've got an early build truck, you don't have a snap to connect fitting, brother. So it couldn't be that. So I hope this helps. Just something to think about. So if it's still got a leak, it could be leaking out of the back of the pump, in which case I'm really sorry. But it's time for an H-pop. But we can help you out. So we got options on FICMRepair.com, and you can take a look at those, and off to the races you go. We, for the record, really like Diesel Site's adrenaline pump for an early build. If it's a late build, we really like RCD's Thumper 1, or possibly Thumper 2, depending on what path you want to go. Even on the adrenaline pump, there's a high output and like a super high output version of those pumps as well. They're just very, very, very reliable solutions. All right? Thanks so much. FICMRepair.com. We're all in this together. Oh, guys, I am so fired. In my slumber, my sickness here, I forgot another H-pop option, and that's from CNC Fab. So sorry for forgetting you guys. Nothing personal. So, at any rate, they also make a great H-pop, and it's actually at a lower price. So that's also available for sale on FICMRepair.com. We've had great luck with that pump as well. All right? So don't necessarily feel like you have to spend the 4 digits to get there. CNC Fab's pump is also quite awesome. All right? Thanks very much. FICMRepair.com. We're all in this together. Sure. Thanks.